I think a lot of people actually in our industry think that their opinion is the right opinion and they forget that they are not their buyer. I don't really care what font you like. When we are looking at this demographic in this market, how are we going to differentiate? We're making informed decisions when it comes to marketing. So unless you're planning to buy all of your homes, it doesn't really matter what font or color is most appealing to you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Builder365 podcast. This is the All Things Home Building podcast. We talk about the business that we just love so very much. We'll find some insights. We'll listen to some smart people along the way, learn from some of the brightest minds in the business, but mostly just have a good time celebrating the business that we love so very much. So settle in, relax. Let's have some fun there. I'm thrilled here to be able to bring in to the podcast here my very good friend and coworker, the one and the only Mr. Ryan Taft. Ryan, how are you, sir?
Living the dream, Jeff. How are you, sir?
Good. Really, really good. Ryan Taft, he needs no introduction. We could introduce him in a number of different ways. Or we could just say he is the author of the book Story Getter. Yay, yay. Woo-hoo. And Ryan, that book came out here not that long ago. We're still counting it in weeks, but book's doing pretty well.
It is. It's actually taken off really well. I was actually talking to our good friend Mollie Elkman, and I was telling her how it was doing, and she was like, that's bestseller status, right? And I'm like, it is? I don't know what bestseller status is. I just hope it really helps people. So I'm excited. It's doing well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Ryan, because we've long known at Shore Consulting, because we've put out a lot of books over the years, including books that you and I have co-written. It's interesting. Writing a book is a gargantuan task. There's no question about it. Selling a book is harder, right?
I mean, there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of people who've written books for sure.
There are, and the number of books that hit the shelves every day is just ridiculous. The number of new books that come out. Again, just selling it, that's the tough part. That's the tough part. And so to see Story Getter doing so well is really cool. And we're actually going to talk more about the fundamentals of the book and what it all means here on our next Builder365 podcast. So we look forward to that. Now, listen, we also want to take the opportunity here at the Builder365 podcast, put on by Shore Consulting, to let you take a little peek behind the curtain from time to time and get to know some of the people who make up Shore Consulting, including the newest member of the Shore Consulting family. Please welcome the one, the only, Cassie Williamson. Cassie, how are you?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
What's going on? I should have warned everybody, put on your seatbelt, because when Cassie's in the room, it's a fast drive. There's no question about it. Cassie, first of all, tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
My name is Cassie Williamson, as you said, and I am the Chief Evangelist and Brand Ambassador here at Shore Consulting. And I do a few different things. I get to work really closely with our community here, all the people that interact and engage with our various programs and support them. I get to do some sales. I have the opportunity to speak in the name of All Things Shore Consulting. And I have an opportunity to train alongside you and Ryan at some of our academies. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Tell us something about Shore Consulting. Something behind the scenes that most people would not know. I give you permission. My name is on the door, but I'm willing to take this risk here. Tell us something about Shore Consulting that most people just may not know.
I think this is easy for me because I am the newbie and I was outside of it looking in before joining. I think what surprised me, or maybe what people don't realize, is the magnitude of talent of people on the team. So, of course, we know how great you and Ryan are, and I'm giving myself bonus points right now, being on the podcast, telling you both that. But we know how great our trainers are, but I think what surprised me and what people may not realize is the talent of everyone on the team. We've just got some serious A players, some really, really great skill set that we don't always all get to see, but that are a huge part of why we're able to do what we do.
Yeah, appreciate that, Cassie. And there's no question about it. We take it very seriously. We want to make sure not just that we have good people, but we have good people in the right spots. in the right chairs, and we share that for sure. Ryan, now give us an insight about Cassie that people may not know. You've had the chance to work with Cassie now for many months. Tell us what you're thinking about Cassie.
Sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, okay, they're positive, and that's just sort of a thing they do. But then you meet Cassie and you're like, oh no, this girl is as positive as you could get. I mean, It's like, if you're ever having a down day, ever, like, forget Tony Robbins, forget Zig Ziglar, Cassie Williamson. That's all I'm going to say. It just will brighten your day like that.
Oh,
right.
That's a
and if possible, get on a Zoom call, because you gotta see the face and you gotta see the hands. You gotta see the hands, right? Cassie has so much energy, she doesn't know what to do with her hands, so her hands are sort of like this.
It's a full-on Ricky Bobby thing. When that movie came out, I was like, oh, that's what I need to start saying. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I just want to check in, Jeff. You got that movie reference, right?
I got that movie reference. Okay, I did indeed. Yeah. Hey, a special thanks to our partner for the Builder365 podcast. Builder365 is powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about what they do to support home builders at opendoor.com/builder365. Go over there today. It's an amazing firm. All right. Hey, let's talk about some of the things that we're seeing in the industry. Really interesting stuff from our friends over at realtor.com on affordability. Okay. And so the first question here is, what state, and I'll ask Ryan and Cassie here, you don't have to get the state, that might be too difficult, but what region is the state in where it is most difficult to purchase a home? Okay. And what we mean by that is, in this particular state, 92% of the households fall short of the income that they would need for a mortgage in order to buy a median priced home. So do you think that's in the West? Is it in the Midwest? Is it in Texas? We call Texas its own region because the housing market is so big. Is it in the South? Is it in the Northeast? What are you guys thinking?
Oof. Cassie, I'll let you ladies go first.
I feel like for me, I always default West, but I've got a few friends who just have had to move East, and they've really struggled too. So I want to rule out the middle. And for me, I think I'm either going to go far West or far East.
Okay. All right.
Ryan, pull us in.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go Northeast on this.
It is the Northeast. It is the state of Vermont. Vermont, of all places, with 92% of its households falling short of the income that they need to go to mortgage in order to buy a medium-priced home. Right on the heels of that, Connecticut and Hawaii fall in spaces 2 and 3. So then the question is, what market, where is the market? What state is there the highest level of affordability? And this one surprised me a little bit. You guys want to take a guess at this one?
I was going to go with New Mexico for some reason.
Okay. That's a solid guess. Yeah. Cassie?
I was gonna say something south, only because where I live, it's really affordable. So I'm gonna say Alabama to represent my home state.
So, and it is affordable from the real dollars perspective, but this is the question of affordable compared to what people make, and that's why this state starts to make more sense. We're talking about the state of Virginia, where the average new home price is $462,000, but because of the number of high-paying government and government-related jobs, around 66% of households still find these new homes. 44% can buy, 66% find them unaffordable. Again, contrasted with Vermont that says 92% say it's unaffordable. Interesting too here, looking at what I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. A stone's throw away from the Silicon Valley, right? San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara. And that metro area in California stands out a lot in the sense that the median new home price in San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, the median is $1.685 million. And that requires a minimum household income of $487,000. That makes it the metro area with the highest percentage of households that are unable to afford a median price new home. Really, really difficult. So, Cassie, you mentioned that you're in Alabama. So the homes are more affordable, but you got to have the income in order to do it, right? That's where it gets a little bit tricky.
This is where you ask for a raise, Cassie. Right here. This is it.
It's really expensive to live here, Jeff. It's really, really expensive.
I know better, so that ship already sailed. Yeah, too much. Yeah. So throw one other thing out there here before we get into our guest interview today. And I was just seeing this earlier today, as a matter of fact. Nolan, our producer Nolan, I'm going to send this to you. You can put the graph up on the screen. It's an ongoing survey that's been asked for many, many years, asking the question, what are the odds that you're going to work past age 62? Okay, the share of Americans that think that they're going to work past age 62. Now, I'm sensitive to this because I happen to be 62, right? But 62 is the baseline number. And they've been asking it for a lot of years. So the question is, what percentage of Americans think that they will work past age 62? You each get a guess. Make it independently. There's no group think here. But one at a time. Ryan, what percentage of Americans think that they're going to work past 62?
I'm going to go with 85%.
85%. Okay. Cassie?
I was thinking 80%.
80%. Okay. And you guys are way, way, way off. The percentage of Americans who think that they'll work past 62 is at 46%.
Is the next question about how many people might be delusional?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the part of the question, Ryan, I think, is how old are the people who are asking the question or answering the question?
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. If you're 25, you're at the front edge of your earning years, and you believe it's going to, I'm going to make a ton of money, and B, I'm going to get Social Security.
That's hilarious.
Oh, to be young and naive. But so yeah, part of it is, I think the older you get and start tracking more closely to that number, the more the number sounds a little bit silly. But yeah, 46%. And that is the lowest percentage of people who think that they're going to work past 62 since they started doing the survey. So it's really, really interesting. And oh, by the way, the numbers have plummeted since the start of COVID. So COVID sort of changed the thinking there. And it'll be interesting to kind of see how that works. Look, Cassie, Ryan, we work together all the time. I'm 62, and people ask me the question, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, what? I don't get the question.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to have to drag you out.
But maybe why? I mean, listen, if for both of you, Cassie and Ryan, if I suddenly said, here's $50 million, you may do something else, but would you retire?
No.
No.
No. What would you do with your life?
Watch Price is Right? I don't know.
Don't knock the prices right.
I'm not. I'm saying that is a good alternative to working.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, it's very, very interesting to sort of watch and see what happens with our society as we start thinking, especially in this now post-COVID era. Has it realigned our values a little bit? What's important to me now? And for a lot of people, working is not that important. Maybe part of it is that the three of us, we work for Shore Consulting, and really, who wouldn't want to work for Shore Consulting, right? I mean, come on. All right. Well, we've got a great opportunity right now to hear from a really, really good friend of ours. I had the opportunity to sit down with one of the smartest people in the room. At the time of this recording, we are in full-blown preparation mode for our Sales and Marketing Leadership Summit in Nashville in July. and we're so thrilled because it's the Sales and Marketing Leadership Summit. We do the heavy lifting on the sales part, but today's guest does the heavy lifting on the marketing part. We're talking about the president of Group 2 Advertising, the author of The House That She Built, Mollie Elkman. And Cassie and Ryan, you've had the opportunity now to work with Mollie directly. Really, really neat individual. Can I say neat? Is that okay?
Neat's great. I would say down to earth.
Yes.
Just very, 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 very easy to work with.
Yeah.
And I think Mollie's too someone that you want to take the time to have a conversation with. She will not be in your face about having that conversation. You have to be intentional. And then when you do, you're like, this is good. This is really good. So being intentional and taking that time to make sure you get to have the conversation because you'll be glad you did.
You really will. She's a great listener. She's a good human being. Super, super smart. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation with Mollie Elkman. It is always good to talk to my very good friend, Mollie Elkman. Mollie, we know you're the owner and president of Group 2. We know that you're the author of the incredibly successful book, The House That She Built. We know you're an industry legend. Tell us something that we don't know about Mollie Elkman.
I just moved. So this will be my first time doing a webinar or podcast from my new apartment.
How about that?
Yeah.
But still in Philadelphia, yes?
Yeah, you'll love this story, actually. A realtor, so we are in a really good school district, and they're just, as we all know, is no inventory. So this realtor approached us and basically was like, I have all these buyers who want to be in this school district, name your price. And he ended up listing it for 2 weeks and we got above asking. So we were like, sure, we'll move for that.
And now you're living the downtown life. But have you ever lived in a downtown setting before?
Yeah, so we were already downtown, but it was a more residential area. Now we are, we are in a high rise. Like we overlook the city. It's a very different vibe. So even though we didn't move cities, it almost feels like a totally different city.
Right, I would imagine so. It's a different lifestyle, but so far so good. You're happy with the move?
Yes, it's amazing. There are like 5 ice cream places within 3 blocks, restaurants, bars, tons of stuff to do.
But notice that you led with ice cream. I love that you led with ice cream.
I did. I have 2 kids. The ice cream was the most important.
When I first met Karen, I just thought she was hot. Then I found out that her parents owned a candy and ice cream store, and I was like, oh, thank you, God. I am all in.
And has all the candy and ice cream.
Well, she had a key. I'm not going to lie. We slipped in a couple of times at 11:30 at night and, got a little extra ice cream there.
Oh, I love it. You guys are the cutest.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that separates you and me, Mollie, most people admit in our industry that sales is something of a mystery, but everybody thinks they know marketing. Does that drive you a little bit nuts?
Oh, my goodness. It is so funny. Everyone does think they know marketing. And I think there is nothing, it doesn't drive me nuts. What drives me nuts is when I get an application from someone who just graduated and it says that they are a social media marketing expert. And I'm just like, that is not a real thing. And you can never really be an expert in marketing at all, let alone having just come out of school. So that's my advice. Don't put that you're an expert in marketing.
But you're going to have clients that are come to you and they're going to, you'll spend all of this time working on a campaign and it looks just right. And they're going to say, you used Ariel and I think Calibri works better here, right? Because everybody thinks they know marketing.
Yeah. It's, those kinds of things don't even really bother me because I think in my heart, I have like a teacher mentality. Like I like to explain why one piece of creative is better than another piece of creative. And that does include talking about the colors and the fonts and why what was done the way it was. Like you can see, I get excited about that. I think a lot of people actually in our industry think that their opinion is the right opinion and they forget that they are not their buyer. And so I don't really care what font you like. When we are looking at this demographic in this market, based on every other brand available in that market, how are we going to differentiate? We're making informed decisions when it comes to marketing. So unless you're planning to buy all of your homes, it doesn't really matter what font or color is most appealing to you.
All right. So that it was a very eloquent and safe answer. So now tell us about some of the stupidest things that you've seen companies do when it comes to bad marketing. And it's probably safest to do that outside the home building industry, by the way. But give us a couple of examples of things that you looked at and you just shook your head and said, what were you thinking?
Okay. So I was going to give you an example of mistakes I've made because everyone's made mistakes in marketing, right? Like you have to try new things. And I think being a creative thinker involves that. I will tell you, most recently in the city of Philadelphia, this guy took out, it's a lawyer, and he took out a huge billboard that was a total failure. So Philadelphia has a lot of slang. One of the slang words here is John. Have you ever heard of it?
No, well, I mean, I've heard the word John as a slang term, but it's probably not what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
I mean, it literally is like any noun. Like it can be used for anything. And the guy's name was John Morgan, and he was making a billboard about his law firm, which is not in Philadelphia. And he wrote John Morgan, and Philly just ripped this guy apart. I mean, they just took him to, it was unbelievable. Like threads about like, this guy's not from Philly, no way. So I don't know, maybe that was a failure for him, or maybe it got him a lot of attention and maybe he got those phone calls and then ended up being successful. I don't know, because I don't have access to his research, but.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting that it's, you look at something and you go, you got to know your market. You got to know your locals because that's who it's going to affect. And you need to understand that.
Right. And I think that is something that is so important because you try to tap into it. And like when it's a miss, it is such a miss.
Yeah. Right. We had way back when I worked for a builder and they wanted to advertise the fact that they kept their homes clean under production, and you could walk through a home and it would present well. And so they showed in an ad a picture, a 4-color picture back in the newspapers, back when we used to use 4-color back in newspapers, but of a home that was under frame. It was just framed, right? And the headline next to it said, "Walk through our homes naked," and it was just like. And I had buyers who would come into I was a salesperson at the time, and they would come in and they would just say, this is radically distasteful and pretty stupid, right? I'm like, I'm not the advertising person, but I agree with you. It's distasteful and stupid.
But they still came in, which is interesting. You're saying I had buyers who came in. Sometimes you do have to, first of all, that is totally distasteful. And I would never recommend something like that. But sometimes you have to kind of try to break through somehow. And hopefully you're not telling people to walk through your framed homes naked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'll love this story as a marketing person. I was working in the corporate office at Kaufman. It was called Kaufman and Broad at the time, KB Homes now, and they decided, okay, well, we want to level up our name, our brand, our credibility. And so they said to an advertising agency, give us a celebrity with a good Q score. And they selected Tom Skerritt. Okay. So Tom Skerritt was, the original Top Gun, and a river runs through it and all of this stuff. He's a really likable guy. And so he comes on and he's going to do his first commercial for Kaufman and Broad. And he looks at the camera and he goes, "The name you can trust. Kaufman and Broad." Cut. It's like, "Mr. Skerritt, it's Kaufman and Broad. And by the way, Eli Broad is standing right here while you're doing it." And it was just, I mean, everybody was trying to keep it really professional, but I'm like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's hilarious.
That's like the one thing you have to get right. Like that's what you're getting paid for. Ooh.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, Eli Broad, the only person at the time to start $2 billion companies. It's crazy.
Like, did he laugh or did he cringe?
He cringed.
Yeah.
He cringed. Yeah. Let me ask you this. The world of marketing changes really every time that there's a shift in the buyer's preferences. How do you possibly stay on top of trends so that you can meet the buyer where they're going to be? This has got to be the most difficult part of your job.
Yeah, it actually changes. It's not even just with, with buyers. It's actually just with how people communicate. And people are communicating in different ways, and it's happening and evolving so quickly. So, one day one social media platform is the platform, and then the next day it's another one. And then there's a news story and different hashtags are trending. And it isn't something that can be planned far in advance. The best marketing is really on your toes, like being tapped into trends and what is trending and being aware of it. I love to read. It is like how I keep myself sane. And I always read the bestsellers because for me, that's a way to tap into what people are connecting with. And so I am fascinated by, what is resonating with people today in real time. So I think, it goes back to what Ryan Taft always talks about, and I see his book behind you, just being curious, right? Like, what is motivating people today? What is getting them excited? What shows are they talking about? What are they listening to? What are they reading? What are the challenges that are on their mind? And that isn't just about a buyer's perspective. That's thinking about how the upcoming election is affecting, how they're feeling in this moment in time. So it's really just like human, how human behavior affects buying decisions.
So you must really get a good chuckle if you look back, at some of the stuff that your father had put out, 20, 30 years ago. And at the time, it was perfectly normal. It was absolutely appropriate. Yeah.
I have some amazing examples to show you. There is this one. First of all, you referenced 4-color print ad. And I have to tell you, I've been in the industry. I was in black and white newspaper print ads in the early 80s. Like I was a kid in the ad. My dad had this flyer that went out to their clients. Obviously, it was mailed out. And it was all about how Group 2 is so cutting edge. Group 2 has this new thing called email. And it is amazing. Oh, I will send it to you so that we can share it. But the wording is hysterical. You now have access to us 24/7.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then even still, builders were like, no, salespeople, you can't use email because then there's a paper.
Oh, right.
I mean, the number of builders that were so slow to adopt just email was just absolutely crazy. So
you would not believe the number of builders who insist on, even still a little bit, but not quite as much, stick maps. I swear, I don't know why builders love stick maps more than anything. And it was like a push to be like, this is not relevant anymore. Nobody needs this.
I think that there are a lot of things that are not relevant anymore that are still finding a way, like the 8-paragraph narrative builder story on the wall in the sales office. I mean, and look, there's a room for a builder story somewhere if somebody wants to see it, but that wall in the sales office is pretty valuable real estate, and I'm not sure that anybody has ever read 8 paragraphs of a builder story.
I totally agree. The website is for sure the place for that. I actually just read that Gen Z, that buyer, cares more about the foundation and the founders of a company than the actual product. So that's like a really interesting thing to think about. Like it changes from generation to generation. Millennials, they weren't going to read that first. They were going to look at the product. So that's like a perfect example of that. And it changes so quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The millennials want to look at the product. I'm a young baby. I'm at the very young end, for the record. But for us, I just want to quote my square footage. That's all I want to do, is just tell you how many square feet I have. So it's weird how those generations change over time. So then what do you do as a marketer if you've got a community that could go to different generations? How do you market to different generations simultaneously? Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. And what you do is you actually have different strategies for each of your target demographics. When you do marketing, you're not just thinking of one end user. So, for example, I was going to bring up QR codes, right? Like QR codes were one of those things that it was like they came in and we thought they were the new thing, and then they went out for a while, and then COVID happened, and now it's like very regular. People expect that like easy little link, and it came back again. So like that's a great example. That wouldn't be something that you would necessarily use as your main call to action for, sorry, Jeff, baby boomers.
It's okay. Yeah.
Right? But even
Yeah.
now, I mean, it's just you have different approaches. And one of the things that I love about marketing is you can A/B test everything. So much of it is done online. You can do an ad and you can run both with a different headline, a different product shot, a different call to action. And the results are in real time. You can see how many clicks came in today to each one and how many are the right buyer demographic. That's your answer right there. So that's like a really fun part of marketing that I think we don't talk enough about is, you know, it used to be focus groups. Now it's really these real-time A/B tests.
You know, it's interesting because just yesterday I was watching a video about YouTube and how YouTubers they're all about getting you to open their video. That's what it is. And so what is it about the thumbnail that causes someone to want to open a video? And this one expert guy, I'm not sure who it was, but he said it all comes down to one thing, the curiosity gap. So when you look at that thumbnail, the question is, how curious am I to know what this person might know? And that's what makes all the difference in the world. And it's so interesting when we look at marketing, because 5 years ago, you used the term curiosity gap and people go, well, what the heck are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean by curiosity gap. So the rapid evolving of marketing, it's hard to stay on your toes, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's also a fine line. So exactly what you're talking about, there's a point where you cross the line to being clickbait, right? And then you make your
Right.
audience mad, because if you make
Right.
the headline like, oh, they have to click to find out, and then they click and
Yeah.
then they're disappointed, now all of a sudden they're
Yeah.
annoyed with you. So it's finding
Yeah.
balance of being interesting and having something that's going to convert them, you know, to that click, but also then satisfy them once they do click with the right information.
Yeah. Now, this is officially a podcast, and according to Podcast Authority rules and regulations, page 16, paragraph 2, we have to talk about AI. I don't want to talk about AI, but we're forced to talk about AI. I don't want to get kicked off the podcasting internet here. Tell us a little bit about the rapid evolution of AI and how it's changed the world of marketing.
It definitely has changed the world of marketing. I will tell you, a lot of agency people will tell you it hasn't, but it has, right? It's changed for me the creative process, right? So I think I will look things up to have a starting point that's further along than I would if I start with a blank page. And I think what's exciting about that for me is not that it's replacing humans, right? Remember when everyone was freaking out that, you know, everyone's just always worried about their job, right? I think what it does is make the product better, because it pushes you to use different words that you wouldn't have thought of, or think of things in a different way. So I'm all about using it, finding different ways to use it and implement it, and not just into your marketing deliverables, but into your processes, into how you communicate. There's just more options becoming available every single day. So to me, it's a little bit overwhelming because you don't always know where to start. I will say I like to defer to the experts on that, who really, you know, they really get into testing them out.
Yeah, I find that I'm with you on this one. I find that AI is a great thought starter. It's good to get me thinking in a direction, but I have never asked AI for something, then cut and paste anything. It just doesn't work, but it does allow me to start thinking in that direction. Okay, we checked the box. We talked about AI. As a marketing expert, as somebody who studies marketing all the time, is there an occupational hazard? Like you're just out with your kids and you see something and you go, oh, that's awesome, and you want to know more, or oh, that's terrible, and here's why. Is it an occupational hazard are you evaluating marketing all the time?
Oh, I evaluate everything all the time. My son actually was making fun of me last night because we were walking as a family, and I just like randomly was like, that is such a beautiful tree. He thought it was the funniest thing ever. I think I have a deep appreciation for art. And, when I see something that, grabs my attention, I pay attention and I will vocalize it and say it out loud. And my 7th grader was all night. He's like, oh, look at the pretty tree.
Right. Yeah.
So, yes, I do look at everything that captures your attention, whether it is a sign, whether it's at the grocery store. I know that sounds so ridiculous, but there are so many options at a grocery store. So that's a perfect place to kind of think about that A/B testing. Like when you look at packaging and you pick one product over another, there's a reason you're picking that product over the one right next to it. And if you take a minute and think about it, is it the words? Is it the colors? Is it the name? Is, all these different things? There is a reason that you are picking one over another. And I think that trying to dig into why is fascinating.
Years and years ago, I read Paco Underhill's book, Why We Buy, and he's a self-proclaimed retail anthropologist. He studies people as they shop, and it is the science of colors and placements and end caps, and it's incredible. But it's also deeply, deeply psychological, which I think makes it even more fantastic. When you, over the years, my guess is that there have got to be some companies that you look and you go, how are you so consistently good with your marketing? Are there any companies that jump out that you look at it and go, yeah, over a long period of time, these are proven, they get it?
What's interesting is it's the companies that evolve that get it, because your brand, it used to be that your brand was solid and stagnant and you had your plan, and now it's not. So it really has changed. And I will say there are companies that have messed up with marketing or who have floundered. I tend to really respect the ones that then get back on track. There are a lot of brands. I mean, I tend to go to retail. One of the exercises that I do when I look at a home builder is I try to align their brand with other brands in other industries. So you look at a builder's community and you think about, if this home was a car, what car would it be? If this home was going out on Friday night, what would it be doing? Really trying to align. I think a lot of the car brands do a really good job. I've always thought Lexus does a good job. From a retail standpoint, I've always really liked Target and what they do and the simplicity. I am a big fan of the FedEx logo and the whole idea behind it and the simplicity of the arrow and moving forward. Really, I like when there's thought behind creative, and I like when the creative isn't just a pretty picture and a headline, when someone really thinks about who the end user is and how they can incorporate that into the creative.
One of the things that I always look at is, people don't want to buy anything unless there is a problem where they are right now. And this is one of the things that I see great advertisers do is they don't just talk about how beautiful and bright and shiny their product is, but they connect with the problem that needs to be solved. And, when they do that effectively, it just makes, it's not just great product going to save you money. Those are valuable, but I love those people who say, you have a problem and we can solve it. And that requires, again, we go back to consumer psychology as a big part of this, knowing our customer well enough. And when we do, then the solutions start to roll out in front of us a little bit. But that's where I find that also for advertisers, I think it's most challenging is to be able to try and fit all that into a compact little message. But even going back to FedEx, remember the tagline? I doubt they still use it, but the tagline early on was, when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight, right? And you think if you're running a corporation and you need something in somebody else's hand by the next morning, well, there you go. You got a problem and they just solved it. So it's interesting to kind of see how that evolves. If you were to stay in marketing, but leave the home building industry, is there an industry that you would want to be a part of?
I was in advertising outside of the home building industry. So I actually started my career in hospitality marketing. I worked with hotel properties in New York City and Florida along the coast. It gave me such insight into destination marketing and really tapping into that experience. I had the craziest job out of college. This agency actually would send me to secret shop these properties as well as their competitors. So here I am in my early 20s being sent to New York to stay in hotels and basically judge them. I mean, it is like a dream job. It was great.
Right. Absolutely. Sure.
So I think hospitality is really similar.
I could see that. I could see that. And especially when you look these days at upper end hospitality, the amount of money that it takes right now to stay at a Ritz or a Four Seasons or whatever, there's got to be a brand around it that elevates the entire experience in order to justify the dollars that they're spending. And you can't advertise that the way you're going to advertise your typical, Marriott. So it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Just such a great conversation, Mollie. And I would be remiss if I didn't suggest that we're not that far away here from our Sales and Marketing Leadership Summit. Thrilled once again to share the stage with you in Nashville this year. It's going to be a blast.
I am so beyond excited. It has been such a fun year. I've also gotten to be with Amy this year for Women's Leadership Circle.
Yep.
So your team is incredible. I genuinely love your team, and I have felt so, like an extension of your team. So I am really just looking forward to it so much.
Well, right back at you. It's a good partnership. Before we let you go, we're going to put you on the hot seat. Rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers. You ready?
Oh, gosh.
Here we go. The artist or band that you listened to most in high school?
Oh, in high school, that was probably Indigo Girls.
Got it? The most beautiful place you've ever stood?
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one, isn't it?
Do you have
Let's pick one.
Okay, I will say being a new mom looking over my kids' crib.
Oh, you went the sentimental route.
It's true. What's more beautiful than that?
I get it. A book you read a long time ago that had a lasting impact?
Tuesdays with Maury.
Your first car?
A Wrangler. And you should know that I recently, after my midlife crisis, bought myself another Wrangler. So I have one again. So I'm a total Jeep girl.
You got the whole duck thing going on there. I get it. Yeah. And finally, and you probably knew this question was coming, your first celebrity crush?
Oh, that was definitely all the boys from 90210. I had when I was 10, I had, all the posters, 90210, everything. I'm pretty sure I had a 90210 pillowcase with their faces on it, which I'm thinking about it now. That's pretty creepy. I don't know that I would let my 10-year-old daughter sleep on the face of teenage boys. So
it is probably good parenting on your part. Absolutely.
It's pretty creepy.
All right, you're off the hot seat. Mollie, what a great conversation, as I knew it would be. Thank you for your honesty, your openness, teaching us a little bit more about what makes for great marketing. Always enjoy spending time with you, my friend.
You too.
We promised the people that it was going to be a great conversation. What do you think? How great is Mollie?
I got so many gems from listening to her on that, and just
give us one, Ryan. Give us one.
It wasn't even just the gem of what to do marketing wise, but it was really the gem of, well, I'm not looking at what other people do wrong. I'm going to look at what I've done wrong. And there's that humbleness to when she mentioned that I just really, really enjoy, because that's really what's missing in the world is this idea of, well, what can I do better? How can I improve? And she just has that attitude, and I love that.
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of built into her personal DNA, the idea that there's a better out there. And I think the trick sometimes is to ask the question, how do I get better while still appreciating the contribution that I'm already making, right? So it's one thing to say, how do I get better because I suck? It's another thing to say, how do I get better on top of what I can already contribute? And I think that that's a really important mindset. And Cassie, I know this is in your line of thinking because you're constantly, you know you're going to bring value somewhere, and yet that doesn't stop you from looking and saying, how do I get better without beating myself up? You really take that same attitude, right?
Yeah, and I think I loved how, that conversation around recognizing that your strength is in knowing that we need to be future forward, and then the theme of our sales and marketing leadership summit, making sure we're looking at how things change over time. She referenced, the generational changes that we see. And so just having that mindset, and that's something that you're constantly evolving and moving towards to be better. You can't remain stagnant. You have to be having that growth, transformation mindset. So I love that conversation.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's what we want for all of you listening to the Builder365 podcast, to be able to appreciate the industry that we're in, to appreciate the work that you do. We are changing people's lives day after day after day. But we also have the opportunity to grow and improve and to learn. It's a big business, and there's a lot to understand. It's constantly changing. That's one of the reasons for me, 37 years into this business, and I am learning and growing every single day, and I don't want that to ever stop. It's a great way to do better work, but it's also a great way to live your life. So there you go. Thanks on behalf of all of us at Shore Consulting. We appreciate you dropping in for a little chat here on another Builder 365 podcast. Until next time, everybody, go out there and change someone's world.